Whoa.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Tottenham Talk. Today, we have a brand new segment coming at you called The Great Debate. So here's how it's going to work. I will be your host today. Every other week, Matt or I will be the host of the episode facilitating the debate, while the other one is the Tottenham representative. Today, we have with us special guests, Craig Castellino as a Man U fan and Clay Wright as a Liverpool fan. Guys, how you doing?
Hello, everyone. I'm doing. Clay, how are you doing? Kept us waiting a little bit, didn't you?
Yeah, I had to get my brain fuel for this episode, but now I'm ready to debate and put all you guys to shame.
All righty, let's get to it. So the trick about this one is even if I want to jump in and Matt is saying something dumb about Tottenham, I can't. I just have to let it slide. So we're going to start this one off with something that Matt and I are both very excited about, but I'm just going to say Matt because I'm not a Spurs fan here. I'm just a unbiased host. So we're going to talk about managers a little bit. Just a few short weeks ago, it looked like Man U were going to sack Ole and Conte was going to be the replacement. But sure enough, Daniel Levy swooped his nimble fingers in there and grabbed Conte right out of Manchester United's nose. So let's talk about managers. Talk about your manager on your team and how you think they are doing this fall and what they will look like for the rest of the spring. And are you in or out for that manager?
Question is, who's going first?
Matt, go ahead.
You want me to go first?
Yep.
Oh, this is easy.
I don't like this question. I don't like this question.
This is a loaded question for
really
Craig.
Be a competition between Ole. I mean, okay, I'd argue Klopp's up there, but fuck Klopp. The Conte I love because I think his 3-back and 5-back philosophy is kind of how football is becoming now, with not only 11 aside being faster, bigger, stronger than they were 20 years ago, but I feel like now the game's evolved so much to where the 3-back is so efficient, and it's getting to a point where not only the attackers are attacking, but your center backs are pushing up. The top clubs are doing it because teams are just so able to catch the counter. Players are smarter, faster, and stronger. And so, it's interesting what Conte, I think, is going to do under Tottenham because of the players we have. It's a little challenging to assume what may happen at the end of the season because we don't know if we get anyone in January. But I will say that Conte's got a new philosophy that I don't think a manager's brought to Tottenham in a while. Maybe the last one was Poch, the passion Poch brought. But one thing I think that sets aside Conte from all the other managers we had was not just his philosophy and tactics, but the determination, the will, the passion just to play the sport, just to play the game. He brings a sort of leadership kind of role in front of these guys that kind of show, hey, listen, I don't care if you're a big name or a small name. Everyone here is fighting for a spot, and we're going to be a stable squad, not up and down. His interviews, I think, for when he first was interviewed at Tottenham were exceptional. I thought his word choice was beautiful. And I think he can actually really put something for Tottenham. I think he can be that first manager to not only just maybe win a trophy for a team who's been struggling to win silverware, but also for his own resume in the past. I think this is a challenge that he wants to take to see what he can do himself. So that's my take on it. Who's next?
All right.
Well, I have a couple of thoughts on the Conte Tottenham new marriage.
Well, you have to say, Clay, as well. You incorporate in whatever you're saying. Don't forget to mention his stunning results so far with the 3-2 win over Vitesse and the 0-0 draw at Everton. Good start.
There it is.
Well, that's true, but with a squad with arguably some of the best players, you still can't seem to get past young boys. So, that's a struggle.
What were you going to say, Clay?
No, it's my question is Tottenham obviously were looking for a new manager at the beginning of the season when the transfer window was open, and they were going after Conte, and he said no to them. And I just don't understand why now in the middle of the year, when I think right now the Tottenham project is a little bit tougher than it was at the beginning of the season, just based on their recent form and also the fact that he doesn't have a whole off season to implement his system. He has to hit the ground running with this team. Like, why would he join this team now rather than waiting for a team with objectively, I guess, on paper, better players from top to bottom on United or another big manager move, and maybe in the summer or something like that. So it was interesting, but I guess for Tottenham and for the club's sake, good for them for getting their guy eventually. But it was just an interesting timing from my perspective of why Conte decided to reject Tottenham at the beginning of the season and then suddenly join them when now the job is worse than when it was when he was first offered it.
Matt, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because, even as a Tottenham supporter, I was confused at first. What's going on behind the scenes that we don't know that is making managers want to go away? What are we causing it? What are we causing that's making all these guys not want to, manage Tottenham, And so at first, we only can read so much. And it's unfortunate because when we got Nuno, we were all excited about it. And, now everything kind of happened so abruptly and so fast. And I honestly think Patrici and Daniel came together. And I don't know if you know, but Patrici worked back with Conte back at Juventus for 3 straight seasons when Conte won with Juventus in the Serie A 3 times back to back. And they worked together back there. And I honestly think it was a little bit more of a convincing factor, but also Conte wanted more of a definite answer on certain signings, maybe how much to spend. And we've had issues in the past with money and issues with managers purchasing guys. And so, another thing too that I will say that's big was Inter and Conte didn't necessarily just fire Conte. That was a mutual agreement to split. And what he did over at Inter, I thought was great. I mean, finishing top 4, then going in and winning it next season. Inter ended up not really having much money for him to stick around. And, for him he felt it was right to leave. And I think in his interview, he stated how it wasn't right for him to join the Tottenham squad in the summer. He just wasn't ready for it yet. He wanted his family time, his alone time. And when that job kind of came back around full circle, maybe it kind of felt like it was meant to be. And, but I don't want to shoot the fact down that I still think he will manage another Premier League club after Tottenham. Who knows? But I don't think the United position is necessarily out of there in the next.
Yeah. I think that in order for the Tottenham and Conte partnership to work out, like you said, and you referenced it, it's all about if the Tottenham upper level management is willing to finally shell out some money, because that's the reason why he left Chelsea. That's the reason why he left Inter, is that they were not able to spend the amount of money that he required in order to keep himself happy and stay at the club, and be like what he thought was remain competitive in the respective league.
Else is getting better too. Absolutely.
Yeah. But for me, I think I can keep it quick. Like, Jurgen Klopp, I think, is one of, if not the best managers in the world. And he's done it before with the same exact Liverpool squad. And I think that he's kind of gearing up to another title push, Champions League push, after disappointing last season. I think that his personality just totally plays into the whole Liverpool club atmosphere and their whole MO. And I am going to be sad to see him go in 2 years, but we're going to keep it going for this until then. Craig, what do you got?
Craig, what do you think of Ole? You're right.
He might be the man of the moment, perhaps the least qualified manager of the 3. What do you think, Craig?
Definitely. I mean, definitely the least qualified manager of the 3. No, I would say there's no questions about that. And if you ask my personal opinion, of course, I'm one of his biggest fans. I always have been, but I probably would agree at this point. It's probably time for him to go. The only thing that I want to say, though, I'll keep it quick too, because I feel like at this point, even Ole, there's not that much debate really around Ole. There is debate. It's just like the biggest debate is like people saying, Gary Neville, why aren't you saying on public that he should be fired? It's not really that many Manchester United fans defending him anymore. because he hasn't given us the results. The people who would have defended him, like me, for example, he hasn't given us the results or performances or tactics to be able to defend him. But the only thing I will say, and I think I mentioned this on our podcast with Clay the last time we recorded it, is I do feel bad for him, and in the fact that I think if he got fired now, it would be deserving, and maybe it would be time for him to go. But I feel bad that he would leave as kind of a joke figure. Like United, the way he'll be remembered right now is like, oh, a complete failure, and all the fans of all the other clubs like singing his name, like always at the wheel at their games and stuff because he's not doing well, and United fans completely turned against him. But in reality, I think that he did the job that he was brought in to do probably better than people expected him to do. He was brought in just to rebuild and just to make, because United were in complete disarray. Yeah, we won the Europa League with Mourinho, but we didn't. The club was in complete shambles. The dressing room was against each other. No one wanted to come to United. The fans didn't like being there. Players didn't like being there. And he came in, brought back positivity. United the dressing room, made sure big players do want to come back to United or come to United now, made the club an attractive proposition. And in my opinion, there was progress every single year, including this year. I mean, last year, his first year, people were like, oh, what's he going to do? He took us to top four. The next year, we're like, well, United's still not good enough. Can they finish top four again? Most people didn't think so. He finished second place by a big margin. And now this year, people were talking about United as a potential title challenger. Obviously, that has not come to fruition. But the fact is, obviously, there was enough progress over the last season for people to be able to think that maybe United are ready to go on. And so I think if he leaves, and, it should probably be soon, but I don't think it will be, to be honest with you. I think they're going to stick with him. If he leaves, I just hope he leaves I just wish people will give him some credit at least, because I do think he deserves some credit. But he wasn't the man to take us all the way, clearly.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Ole's taken you to 2 finals, right?
1
Europa League
no,
final.
just the one.
And
just
then,
the one final.
I thought it was 2 Europa League finals.
No, 1 Europa League final, but a few semifinals, like 5 semifinals.
So, I mean, like, my question is, he's able to get you guys there. Do you personally think he's able to get you guys over the line and win it? Or do you think that's going to take somebody else, like Zidane? Like, do you think he's capable of winning a title? He's been able to get to that position, so I'm curious to know what you think about that.
Yeah, the thing for me that's weird is that it's such a loaded question, because I feel like managers, like you said, he's gotten us to a final before. And yes, you can blame, his tactics or whatever in the final. But at the end of the day, if you watch the final, it was, it came down to the 11th penalty out of 11 in a penalty shootout when everyone made it, and our goalkeeper missed his penalty. And so I'm not saying that Ole managed that game in a way that was deserving to win it. What I'm saying is that De Gea makes a penalty or something, and all of a sudden he does have that title with the exact same tactics, the exact same ability that he has. And now people are like, oh, he does have the ability to win a title. So it's weird for me to say, like, does he have the ability? Because you guys are Tottenham fans. 2 weeks before Pochettino got fired, you guys got to, and this is not, I'm not talking about Pochettino's ability anymore, but I'm talking about the fact that teams who are in shambles can make it very far in tournaments, especially like knockout tournaments. You guys were having one of the worst seasons in your recent history in the Premier League and made it to the Champions League final. Right? Beat Man City, beat Ajax in these crazy comeback wins. And so it's weird because I think he's gotten us to a final. I think on another day, if he was luckier, he would have won the final. But that doesn't mean necessarily that long term he has the tactics and the vision to have this club. It's Manchester United, to have them consistently competing for the Premier League title. I mean, Alex Ferguson was winning it year after year after year, or finishing second place by a couple of points. You know what I mean? And the quality of players we have right now is very high. We can't say, like we were saying 3 years ago, like, oh, we don't have, we have Fellaini and whatever, Phil Jones and Chris Smalling and et cetera, et cetera. Like, we have very high quality players. I love all those players, but now we have better players.
Yeah, you've got great players, Fred, all of them. So moving on, let's go on to our next.
Way to stay unbiased as the host.
I'm the host. I got to make this entertaining.
We can all agree that Fred's United's best player. So
moving on to the next segment that we're going to talk about today is I'm going to have each of you rate your current team's 11 as it is now, and I want you to say, are they over or underrated based on their results this
Or
fall?
properly rated? Is that possible?
They can be properly rated, of course.
Okay.
Wait,
So-
repeat the question.
So I'm going to have you each rate your current team's 11 in terms of just players. And then I'm going to say, have you guys, under or overperformed for this year? Or have you properly performed?
Assuming that everyone's healthy.
Assuming everyone's healthy. I mean, with the teams
What's my
that you have right
starting
now,
11?
right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's been some pretty consistent starting 11s, even with Spurs. The last 2 games were the exact same. So what I'm getting at here is I think Liverpool are, doing pretty well. Other 2, it's up in the air. So let's maybe we'll start off with Clay on this one.
Yep. Okay. I guess my team starting 11 rating, is it like out of 10?
Yeah. Just kind of overall, you can kind of go to the defense, how you think they've been doing, midfield, forwards.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I guess I'll start at the back where it's all built. I think that, I think Van Dijk has slowly gained his form throughout the year. He started off a little bit rusty after missing a long time with the torn ACL. Other than that, Trent's doing Trent. Robertson has been a little bit disappointing this year, but overall, I think the defense has performed pretty well. I'd say like 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, usually just enough to get the job done. We have, and like always, even when we scored like 90 plus points in a season, we've always had those each moment in a game where just based on the style of play that Klopp employs, that each team is going to have the other team is going to have a few chances to score. That's just the nature of the Liverpool tactics. Midfield.
Are you worried about the last couple of games?
Not really. I think that West Ham right now, they're a top 4 team and they've proven that they're a tough team to beat. And also like Brighton, they've been playing really well this season. Another tough team to beat. So like in terms of that, not really. And also they've been sandwiched by great Champions League performances. So we know that it can happen and it can come around. And it's not like, and I guess it's been good because while we've been dropping points, also other teams at the same position or around us in the table have also been dropping points. So it's not like it's breaking our backs just yet, but it would have been good to capitalize on those opportunities. Midfield, I think that Liverpool's team, this is the one weakness where I think that we should look to strengthen in January, which is because the amount of injuries that we've incurred throughout the season, like with Harvey Elliott, Milner, Fabinho's been hurt, Thiago's been hurt. Like we've been starting Ox the last like 3 games, and that's when you're at a bad spot in your midfield. So I think that midfield, even though that they've had a lot of rotation and a lot of in and out, they've still gotten the job done pretty good. I think that they probably get a 6 out of 10. And then the forward line is pretty much the key of the Liverpool spear, I guess. Mo Salah right now, I think, is the best player in the world on form. He's just been incredible, especially the last 2 months. And because of that, I have to give him a 10 out of 10. No matter if it's Firmino or Jota up there, it's been clicking. And then I guess in terms of performances, if they've been overperforming or underperforming, I think in the Champions League, they've been overperforming just because, I mean, when the draw was made, this Group B with Liverpool, Porto, Atletico Madrid, and AC Milan was seen as one of, if not the toughest groups in the whole Champions League. And they've gotten 4 wins from 4, and they've already secured, so they've already won the group after 4 games, right? And then in the league, like you said, Craig, there's been a couple of disappointing results where we would have at least expected to get a win, especially versus Brighton and versus West Ham. The West Ham one's not as bad as the Brighton one, I don't think. But for that one, I think they've slightly underperformed. So I think that overall, I'll balance them out and say they've performed at expectations. But you can't complain when you're already won the group and you're, 3rd in the league right now. So life is good. 4th in the league, right?
But yeah, so Liverpool are not doing so bad. 4 points behind the first position. Past 2 Premier League results was a loss and a draw. So perhaps on a downward trajectory. I guess that's only soon to be told. So Clay, final answer: overrated or underrated this season so far?
Or par?
I say on par because you can't forget that 5-0 win versus Manchester United. So
yeah, that's always good, isn't it? I know
it always is good.
We had a 6-1 last year, but again, I'm biased. So moving on,
and a finish in league standings to match it. I can go next. But I guess so. What am I doing? What Claire doing? Just going like defense to offense rating, and then overall.
Yeah. We'll let me start with the United's past couple of results. A loss to City.
Okay.
And a win against Tottenham. So those are their last 2 Premier League results. So
yeah, and then a couple Atalanta wins sandwiching, as you like to say, Clay, right? Those performances. But let's be honest. I mean, Atalanta probably should have deserved to win both those games, and they've come away with one, or it was 1 draw and 1 win. Sorry, but I don't know. Those results, if you look at the past 4 results, Clay, that you just mentioned, a loss to City, okay, understandable. Beating Tottenham, beating Atalanta, and drawing away, like, oh, what a great run. That's not the reality. The performances have been horrific. Well, the Tottenham performance was pretty good, but no offense, I feel like that was more to Tottenham's whatever than to United's credit.
I think we'd all have to agree on that.
So if I were to rate United,
El Sacico, right?
What? Yeah, the El Sacico. If I were to rate United, I guess I'll go from back to front. I'll start off with a positive. If I start with De Gea, not the whole defense, just De Gea, I think he's been unbelievable this season. There's been a couple small mistakes that people are blaming him for a couple goals, but personally, I don't think either of those goals that have happened over the course of the season were really that bad or like really something he made a big mistake. And other than that, he's kept us in so many games. The City game could have easily been way more if not for him. 6-7-0 in the first 30 minutes. I think the Leicester game, the Everton game, he's just kept us in every single game, pretty much, Champions League and Premier League. He's kind of holding us from it's just like, days of old with United when De Gea was, people were talking about him as the best in the world, was because our defense sucked and he was saving us. So moving on to so I would give him like an 8 or 9 out of 10 because he was in such a bad place. So to have the mentality to bring himself back and start moving up. Now the reason that he's had to do that is because the defense has probably been a 3 out of 10. Especially relative to what they were expected to be. I mean, we brought in Varane, Maguire, Varane, Luke Shaw, Wan-Bissaka. That's supposed to be, Maguire and Luke Shaw were unbelievable at the Euros, huge part of that England team. Wan-Bissaka is supposed to be one of the defensively best right backs. And I mean, what more can we say about Varane? I will admit Varane's been amazing, but he hasn't played that much because he's been injured. When he has played, he's been, kind of the rock. But the other 3, man, for supposedly, 3 top defenders in the league. I mean, Maguire, Shaw, and Wan-Bissaka have not been on it. And the thing is, when I see things like this, sometimes it's hard for me to specifically blame Ollie in this case as well, because I know that Ollie is the reason that Luke Shaw has even become the player that he is, or Wan-Bissaka has been able to perform at this high level. Maguire, same thing. So I don't know necessarily if that's Ollie's fault or what it is, but it all goes the same thing. If the tactics aren't there and the midfield isn't. Okay, defensive 3 out of 10. Let's not get carried away. Midfield is hard for me to rate because we aren't playing our best starting midfield, in my opinion. Fred and McTominay, I don't understand how they're starting every game when we have midfield players like Bruno and Pogba, and
especially when you guys are playing back 5, like recently, why would you go back 5 plus the 2 DMs? I don't understand that.
And Matic, even, I think it's better than both of them. So midfield, we've been dominated. You saw it in the Liverpool game and the City game, especially City game. I would say whatever, same 3 out of 10, maybe 4 out of 10, maybe a little bit better than the defense. Offensively, I would go 6 out of 10. So still a disappointing season. Like the end product just isn't there. But I do think that this is because of Ollie. So the decisions he's made in midfield and the style he's playing don't match our players. Jadon Sancho was trying to play like Marcus Rashford as we're hitting the balls over the top, which is not what he's good at. He needs the ball into feet. Offensively, I think we're at a 6 out of 10, but that's only because the same thing as in the past years, we've been relying on big moments. We have one of the best, starting 11s on paper in the league. And so when you have Ronaldo to pull out those moments of magic, when you have Pogba at the beginning of the season to pull out, when you have Bruno Fernandes, if one of them's not performing, one of the other one will do something crazy at the end of the game to get us that draw at Atalanta, to get us the win at Atalanta. And so that's the only reason that we get a 6 out of 10 is because we've managed to conjure up some moments, even though we haven't really been performing. So overall, I would say, like a 3 out of 10 overall team performance, maybe De Gea drags it up to 4 or 5. And I think we can all agree definitely underperforming as far as what the starting 11 should be. But all said and done, this is horrible. We're 11 games into the season and the title race is already pretty much over for us. And Champions League is not for sure. And we're already out of one of the cups, et cetera, et cetera. But 6th place, 17 points is not, the worst in the world. 6 points off of 2nd and 3rd place. Given how bad we feel, it's not the worst case in the world. The only problem is something has to change in order for that to not continue to go down. So yeah, overall underperforming. I don't think any of you guys would disagree with that.
Nope. I think that's well said, Craig. All right, Matt. Let's hear it. What do you got? This might be the most shambolic of the 3 teams this far. So let's see.
What are my last 2 games we played?
In
United, right?
Draw against Everton, a 3-2 win against Vitesse, a 3-0 loss against Man United, and a 1-0 win over Burnley in the Carabao Cup.
Oh, what a win.
What a win that is.
Tough one. All right, so Matt, let's hear it.
Starting from the back, I think the first thing I'm going to start off by saying is we've seen a very good start from Romero, a positive start from Romero. Him in the back, I think, at least recently we've seen a 3-back with kind of like Davies, Dyer, and then Romero under Conte. And I'm going to go about this lineup as Conte would, as opposed to what Nuno has. But no, first thing I want to say is Romero has really shown his place. And the best thing about it is he's 23 years old. And he's someone that reminds me of a Dyer in a way on how he's so aggressive in his tackles. And that's something I feel like we've kind of lacked ever since Toby and Vertonghen kind of got to that age and kind of went on their own path. We've gotten to a point where the back line has lost consistency, chemistry, will to even, dive in front of a block shot. You know what I'm saying? So it's nice to see that passion back. Obviously at the start and in the past, I guess, season or so, it's been hard. It's hard to rate Tottenham's back line because we've been so poor back there. And as of now, the only positive I really have about it in a 3-back is seeing Romero back there and what he can do. And if I were to rate that back line, it'd be I really like Lloris though, so maybe he helps me.
I don't know. You got to bite the bullet.
What?
You got to bite the bullet here.
Probably like a 2 out of 10. It's bad. But one thing I'm really glad about is I think it's going to be it's a 2 out of 10 now, and I think we've hit rock bottom there to where I think we could arguably in the next year or so be one of the best defensive squads out there. Now going to the midfield, I think this is another part where we struggle. We struggle all over the freaking field, but under Conte playing the wing backs, 5-ish back, 3-back, however you want to look at it. And then the 2 central midfielders, he plays flat across. It's so interesting how he runs necessarily like a 3-4-3, as opposed to what he ran 3-5-2 in Inter with 5 midfield, just straight flat across. So I was curious to know coming in what he was going to do. And with our midfield, I think you have to have someone who's going to be more of a pivot and more of a 6 or an 8 type player. 6 is someone that we don't have, I don't think. That's someone that we need to look for in getting a true defensive mid. And then I think Tanguy is someone that roams and creates for us. But it's hard because we have so many fluid and very talented midfielders to where, you have Højbjerg, who I want in there as well, but he's not going to be a guy for me, at least that's going to be a true DM. He'd be next to someone who would be a true DM, and then he'd be all over the place, doing his work. But on the sides, you got Emerson and Regi, and I think they've gotten to a point. I think they know their roles and they understand their roles, and they're getting to a point on how to execute it. And I think it's new soccer for them. Coming from just different types of. They both came from La Liga. Emerson and Regi both did, Emerson came from Barca, but he was at loan at Real Betis before he came here. And then Regu was at, Real, but was at Sevilla on loan. So they both play similar styles of football back in Spain. So I'm curious to know if that linkage and that chemistry can help and under Conte to see what they can do. But I think execution-wise, it's just got to be that better. It got to be a bit better. So I think our midfield is better than our defense. I'll give him probably like a 4 or 5 out of 10. But then it comes to our attack with Stone, Kane, and Mora. I love Mora. He reminds me of just me and someone who just has a huge and nice work rate, someone who really just keeps trying and trying and trying. And you appreciate that as a fan. And I think he deserves to start all the time just due to how much he just works. And I mean, he's shown that, he can put goals away after taking his hat trick to the Champions League final. I mean, it's wild what the man can do. And I think he deserves that spot. Obviously, he's fighting the spot with Bergwijn, or Bergwijn's fighting with him, but there's no reason why Bergwijn should be playing over him, I don't think. And then you have Kane and Son. I'd argue Kane is hard because of how big his name is, but the dude hasn't done anything for us. He stands, he waits, he looks. I swear to God, he's not even playing soccer. And it's really frustrating as a fan because he's arguably one of the best finishers, if not the best finisher to be playing right now. And, you have this mentality and the type of guy who I don't know. I hope it's not ego, but
he just looks so passive right now.
He's very passive. And it's unfortunate because, I think he could put numbers up in the Prem as Ronaldo could. And, he says in the documentary of All or Nothing how he wants to be at that Ronaldo Messi level. And I think a lot of it comes from here and here. But I don't think the way he maybe went about his previous transfer to City in this past summer could have maybe handled a bit better. I know he tweeted out saying that he thought he handled it better, but anyway, so I think the front three I would give maybe – we haven't scored really either, so 3 out of 10, 2 out of 10. It's been overall 3 out of 10 performance until Conte can really show what we can do. But it's not – I don't think it's that very good at the moment.
All right, Matt, over, underrated, or just not rated?
We're just not rated.
All right.
I still think we're better than United, so it's okay.
All right.
As the results show.
All right, so we got about 1 minute left. This is rapid fire question here. Now, where, based on the results so far and what you think or feel coming in the future, where is your team going to finish? Matt, go. Got less than 5. Fifth. Okay. All right. Clay.
Second.
Craig.
Fourth.
All right. 2 top 4 finishes from Clay and Craig, and Matt going with a reluctant 5th. All right.
I like those guesses.
I do. So thank you for joining us on our first ever inaugural episode of The Great Debate. We've got some things to iron out, but I think this series will be a lot of fun going forward. So be sure to check us out on Instagram and Twitter. And as always, thank you for listening, and come on, you Spurs.